Let's talk about integrated libraries. Integrated libraries are a nice way to keep all your project stuff in one folder. We started off with our op amp here. I'll clear that out so we can see everything. And our PCB, and then we made a panel. Well, let's talk about how do we make a library. So if I open this up and look, I have all my documents here. Let's come up to design, and under design you'll see one that says make integrated library. We're going to select this and then you're going to see what it does. Okay, so we just made a library. Let's take a look and see what it says. I'll do a file save all so we have everything saved. Look, I have a new tab here that says libraries, compiled libraries, and there's my op amp internal library. So I now have a library of all the parts and footprints that I used in this project, and it's stored inside this project, nowhere else. This can be very handy because if I zip this project, put it on a thumb drive, go to a different computer somewhere, my library that I'm using comes with me. Now if I double click this, it opens up the library. So I'll do a save all again. It's asking where to save it. I'm going to put it here. Let's see, project outputs. Yeah, I want to put it right there. It's just op amp library package. So I've saved it. And what you'll see here is I now have an op amp PCB library and an op amp schematic library. If I click on the PCB library, it opens up the footprints. And I have a new tab here. Here's all the footprints that are used in that project because we generate a library with it. If I come to schematic library, I have a new tab, schematic library. There's all the schematic parts that we used in this project. So this is a good way to keep all our stuff together, keep it all in one place. And it's also handy because I can now make new parts inside this library. Let's say I need a new footprint. I can come up to Tools, and I can make a new blank component in the footprints, or I can use the wizard. I'm going to use the wizard. And it says, all right, PCB component wizard. Next, what do I want to make? A ball grid array, a capacitor, a diode, dual inline package. Let's make a dual inline package. I'll tell it next. It wants to know what size do I want these pins holes to be and these pads to be, so I'll say I want my holes to be 35 and maybe I want these to be 75. Next, it wants to know what spacing do I want here. I'm going to make an odd spacing. That's why I'm making a special footprint. This is talking about where are we going to put the top overlay. How many pins do I want? I'm going to make 18 pins. What do I want to call it? I'm going to call it dip 18 space 400 because that's 400 mil spacing. Tell it next and finish. There, I just made a footprint. And you'll see now I have an 18 pin. It's a little wider than normal. It's not 300 thousandths, it's 400 thousandths wide. If I had a very special part and I needed, say, this pin to be moved, I can drag that thing out here and drag this one out here. And then save it. And I've made a very special part. Some custom part for a special part that I ordered for my project. So I save it. I can go back to my schematic here. All right, we'll go to libraries, install from file. And this one happens to be on a C drive, public. public documents, Altium projects, op amp. There's the internal library. Open. Okay, so now I've made a special footprint and I have that in my library. Let's go to the schematic library. We can do the same thing here. Tools. I'm going to make a new component. I'm going to call it my 18 pen device. And let's look how this works. Most of the editing features still work exactly the same, and I'll show you how to do that. I can hold down my control button and zoom in and out. This also goes in layers, so I'm going to tell you now the first thing you're going to want to place is your rectangle. Because I want my rectangle on the bottom and I want everything else on top of it. The size at this point is not important. I'm just going to place one so I establish that it's there. Then we can place a pen. You'll see right away it starts off as pen 0. I'm going to hit the tab key before I place it and tell it that the display name is going to be VCC and it's going to be pen 1. Now, you'll notice that there's a little X on the right side of that. That's where the net connection is made. And where the VCC is the name. So I'm going to rotate it and place it there. Now look what it does. It increments, and I'm already at pen 2. I can hit tab. It's ready for the display name. I can tell it that's going to be the ground pen. Ready to place. Pen 3. This is going to be the input pin. Pin 4. I can make that the output pin. And let's see, how about we make pin 5 no connect. And we'll do this. Now remember we had 18 pins, so I'll rotate this. There's no reason I have to do them in this order. You may want to take your pins and say if you had port pins on something and put all the port pins graphically together, even though maybe their pin numbers would be 1, 5, 16, and 3. Doesn't matter. The pins don't have to be in order, but we do want the footprint has to be in order. The schematic doesn't. So now look at my box. My box doesn't fit. No problem. I highlight the box. I drag it. It fits. I come to this part. I say add footprint. Browse. There's the dip 18. I made that special layout. OK. OK. File. Save all. So now I've made my special part. This part has its own footprint, its own schematic part. I should be good to go. If I go back to my project now and I look at my libraries, there's my special part. I could place it there. I could call it U2 and tell it save, design, update PCB. It's going to add it, execute, close, and there's my new part. New footprint, new schematic part, my library. So this is how you add and make your own parts in Altium, or you can take a footprint that's already there and edit it a little bit if you need to. It still works the same. I can go to Project, PCB Library, and say, man, this pen, I need it to be bigger, right? So I can look at it and say, well, look, 75, I need it to be 100 because it needs to be bigger, and the hole needs to be 50. So I change the hole here, pad size there. Okay, now that pen's bigger. If I go to my PCB library, right click on this, I can say update PCB with this footprint because I just edited that footprint. Update it. I can now come back to my op-amp PCB and look, that pad's bigger, the hole's bigger. So there's ways to use your libraries and how to adjust things and make new parts and edit parts. I'm sure as you move on in your career, you're going to find there'll be some parts that you won't be able to find in your libraries and you'll have to make them yourself. Thanks.